Beyond the Pelvis is hosted by Dr. Keneal Siegel, a pelvic floor PT and intuitive healer, and Laura Haraka, a somatic practitioner and breathwork facilitator. Each week, we explore alternative and holistic approaches to healing chronic pelvic pain and other painful or chronic conditions. Join us and other experts in mind, body, and spiritual healing as we discuss a wealth of modalities ranging from ancient practices to modern therapies that challenge the conventional Western model of treatment. Let's get right to it.
So welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Pelvis. Today, I am honored and excited to introduce to you my friend and fellow breathwork facilitator, Koa, who is a Canadian from Montreal and has been on a journey of self-discovery and healing. He is a certified myofascial release therapist and breathwork facilitator and is passionate about helping others release emotional blocks and reconnecting with their inner joy and alignment. So, welcome, Koa, to the podcast.
Oh, guys, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and we already introduced you, but share a little bit more about how you ended up in the space you currently are, whether it is what you're doing and or where you're located.
Okay, so this journey started about 6 years ago in 2018. I came back. After high school, I traveled a lot and I was chasing happiness, and I thought that was the point of life, chasing happiness. So I did that for many, many years. Until 2018, I hit a wall. I was in Australia, I remember, and I hit a wall and just had to come back. And I gave it one last shot at this conventional norm career thing, and it didn't last long. I think after 10 or 12 months, I was in a deep, deep depression. I always had struggle with mental health issues, a sense of directions and purpose. And I knew that if I didn't figure this part out of my life, figure my mental health, figure dealing with my emotions, things were gonna go south pretty quickly, dark thoughts and things like that. And eventually I had a chance to go on a trip to El Salvador, which in Spanish means the savior. And I took a 3-week trip in El Salvador, and I realized, no, it's time for me to get out of the hole I dug myself in. And so that's where that journey really started. It was in early, like right 2 weeks before the pandemic. And that's when I discovered meditation, yoga, and breathing. And over time, it kind of led me to travel a little bit more. I'm a very nomadic person. And that's when I discovered that I had trapped emotions in my physical body. I did a intense mushroom journey, which brought that up. I'm realizing through the mushroom journey, wow, I'm massaging my body and these emotions keep coming up. And then I had a few more of these reaffirmation that I really need to find someone that does body work on me to release those emotions. And lucky enough, I found fascia therapy. So the specific technique that I discovered, it was invented by this guy from Nova Scotia called Philip Gough, who now lives in Arizona. We did a 10-day intensive program where we did half the body of physical fascia therapy release every day for 10 days in a row. And that changed my life drastically, right? I remember my first session with him. I came in his office. It was in Victoria, British Columbia. And after 5 minutes of working on my stomach, I had a 5-minute long emotional release, and I was like in a ball, curled up, shaking. But the thing that was astounding to me is like, I'm crying right now, I'm releasing, and I have no idea why. And that's what the beauty of it was for me. It's really like, okay, I'm releasing stuff that I don't know is even present in my body. And I kept on with this journey. And then I became friends with him, and he had a lot of clientele and needed to train some people. So he decided 6 months later to get me in his own personalized training program. And I did a lot of training, a lot of training, a lot of shadowing with him to learn the ins and out, not only of the physical treatment, but also holding space for people. And that kind of led me in different paths to eventually learn more about breath work, right? I did a lot of breathing through the Wim Hof method at first, but then after that, through the presence process, which is an amazing book. If you've never heard about the present process, it's a 10-week journey of breath where you breathe 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. That changed my life. So when I discovered holotropic breathwork afterwards, I remember after the first session, I had a huge emotional release. I'm like, I need to become a certified breathwork trainer. I need to share this with the world. And ever since then, I had other adventures as well that are deeply like that changed me deeply, and I would be here without them. But after the experience of the breath, I feel like one of my major focus has been to create a way to share the beauty, the depth of the breath, mainly, and then also using fascia therapy as another medium to help people reconnect with their body, release. I just say release energy, but it's connected to the nervous system and all these other layers of who we are.
What an amazing story. And I love how you said you were searching for happiness.
Yeah, no, that's what I heard that recently, and for me, it was like a red flag. Like someone say, like, yeah, I'm looking to be happy, and I'm like, I'm not looking for that. I'm not. This is not my journey anymore.
Right. I spent a lot of years looking or searching for happiness myself until I realized, okay, happiness is a choice, and I need to learn to be happy in my existing life and in my surroundings. But one of the things that you said, you're one of the first people that I knew, and I didn't know this about you. And we've had multiple conversations through our training through Make Some Breathing Space,
Yeah,
where we both got certified. And the Presence Process was the book that I read that first got me started on a breathwork journey myself.
that
I
was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. At that point, I did it twice in a period of a year, I think. It was so hard. I don't know if people can understand, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that just breathing, stuff comes up to the surface. And I remember times doing this in the morning, and it's a 15 minutes of breath through the nose. It sounds so simple, right? And I remember times where I'm 2, 3, 4 hours in a freeze mode under a blanket in my room, and I can't move. And I've been crying for hours and I can't move, to the point where, like, okay, now I need help. And now I need to call someone to come to me, which I'm a very independent person, which I don't like at all, to come to me to pick me up because I can't do it. I'm stuck. So that's like the depth of the power of the breath. Just breathing through the nose. It's not even deep, active, open mouth, conscious, connected breath work. It's 15 minutes of breathing through the nose with a mantra.
Wow.
It blows my mind every time I say that. It just blows my mind.
I mean, I aware of breath work and the power of breath work, but I don't think people actually realize, like, I'm pretty sure people are listening going, but it's just breathing. We do it every day. Why is it so special? So
So
what makes it so special?
that's the thing I hear so often. Oh, what do you do for that? Oh, I'm a breathwork coach. Yeah, but I breathe every day. And it's like, this is the one constant of our life, right? Everything's gonna change. The one thing that is stable is that you breathe air in and out. Even if you take a breath hold, you still have in air and out of your body. And so you take your first breath and you take your last breath. But a lot of people don't realize, and this is something I heard a few months back, the quality of your breath is really interconnected to the quality of your life. So if you're able to breathe properly, you can have a proper life, which then creates a whole scale of what is a proper life. That's another question. But when you start breaking it down, I would say that 95, more than 95 percent of the people that I see, either in the day-to-day life of my clients, they don't know how to breathe to improve their quality of life.
Thank you for explaining that. And I mean,
I'm
both Laura
very
and I do
passionate
breath
about
work
it.
too, you know. So like Laura, you guys trained together, but as a physical therapist, that's the first lesson that I teach people is how to breathe. And I remember once, and I think I've told this story before, I had one patient who was so resistant, like she was mad that I was actually teaching her how to breathe because she's like, I do this every day. Why are you teaching me this? I came here for my pain and you're teaching me how to breathe. And she did leave feeling a little more calm because I explained to her that it is connected to, as you mentioned, it's connected to your nervous system. I think you mentioned that with myofascial release, but breathing is the same thing. It's like the one direct way you can affect your nervous system is simply by breathing.
Mhm.
And she did leave feeling a little bit more calm. And I do tend to remind people too that you have more control than you think. And if you just start with your breath, right? Just start with your breath. Like the saying is, we take on average 20,000 breaths a day. How many of those are you consciously taking? Right? Most people, it's zero, unless you're like crazy like us and you're focusing and paying attention to it. And you hope that maybe half of those are at least conscious. And because we're focused on it, we actually don't even take 20,000. We take a whole lot less and they're just more efficient in that way. But I'd like to go back because Laura knows you sparked my interest when you said mushroom journey.
Okay, great.
And
Let's talk about
I
this.
am all about psychedelic therapy and wish more people would have access to it. I'm curious, what was your intention? What was your reason for going to mushroom journey or mushroom ceremony? And you mentioned that you felt trapped emotions. How did that present itself during your journey?
I've always been more curious with like a natural substance. I self-medicated with weed and alcohol for many, many years. And then in 2020, I stopped drinking. And then a year after that, I stopped needing and being having to use marijuana. And that's when all the deeper exploration with mushroom was. I don't know if that was connected to necessarily trapped emotions. I think it was more connected to there's more to life than what I see in the 3D. And I was reading guys who wrote all this book and did all these mushroom journey in Colombia with his brother, super famous guy in the mushroom world.
Is it Paul Stamets?
No, I read most of Paul Stamets' work and I really loved it. Running Mycelium or Mycelium Running is a book that deeply changed my life. Seeing how the mycelium in the herd, well, actually, like we're a bag of mushrooms walking around. That's pretty much what I got from it. But the idea for me behind doing psychedelic mushrooms was connecting with spirituality, learning how to connect with spirituality, which is something that I was kind of curious about. And that led me on really on that journey of discovery and then realizing that at that point in my life, I just wanted to release emotions. This is something that I see even in some of my clients on the fascia level. There's some people that their emotions, they're like, I don't know what I can compare it, but they're holding on so tight that they're like a bubble ready to explode, but they're just holding on so tight that physically I see it through like as I doing my examination, I see my clients, okay, I know exactly what's happening. It's just holding on to everything and you've never let go. And I was not comfortable with my emotions. And I was struggling with my mental health. And that I think that was really what the link with the mushrooms was.
You know, learning how to breathe and breathing the right way, we know it's great for our activating our vagus nerve and our parasympathetic nervous system. And when we breathe correctly, it gives our brain the signal that we're safe.
Yeah.
And when we have things like pain conditions come along when we don't believe we're safe. So I'm just curious if you can talk for a moment about um, maybe breath work first, then the myofascial release, how the breath work helps release these trapped emotions in the body.
This is interesting because I think my view on it keeps changing and is a little bit outside of the conventional. I'm definitely not, I don't really believe in science anymore. I like the foundations of science, but I think it's becoming this new religion, and I'm trying to step away from it. So how we're talking here about how to release pain in the body through breath work, right, or through fascia therapy. First and foremost, for those who are not aware, fascia is that one matrix of our whole body. If we stop dividing everything into, this is a muscle, this is a tendon, this is a ligament, these are your bones, these are your organs, at the end of the day, there's one structure that is forever present, and that is fascia. Yes, there's different layers of fascia, there's different kind of, you can divide them, but at the end of the day, that structure is fascia. And fascia is exactly like mycelium. And this is what connects the energy of our body, right? This is how the energy flows in our body. This is also where 95%, if not more, of our pain receptors are. They're actually located in our fascia, and that is being transmitted and communicated through our nervous system. At least this is how I understand it. And pain sucks, but pain is a communication device. It's a communication signal. If it was not for that sucky sensation, fuck, it hurts my shoulder, something hurts, we would not act upon it, right? So we really need the pain to act and do something to change it. And what it is, what I've seen as a fascia therapist being represented in the body is adhesion. So instead of being this very flowy, kind of crystalline matrix where it's kind of a dance of, if you look at what fascia does on the microscope, it's these kind of tiny droplets of water moving on these strings. And when there's an adhesion, it's a clump. And then when there's a clump, that's when the pain is. And I'm starting to look at who we are as humans as not only a physical body, but a mental body, where there's an emotional body, there's an energetical body, there's a spiritual body. And when you connect all of these together, they're all one as well. So that one pain, even if it's physical, for me, the treaty is the most dense kind of realm that we have. So it always stems from usually mental beliefs. And then after that, we have our emotions that are connected to it. And then the emotional side of things, I geek out with the intergenerational stuff. So why is this pain there? Well, this is, let's say, if you look at the traps, right? The traps in your upper neck, three main emotions that are stored there is going to be anger, grief, and anxiety. A lot of people know I've been anxious, my shoulders are up. But what about the grief? And what is the layers of that grief? Is that grief, okay, that grief is on your right side, it's the masculine. What's happening with your dad right now? Is this passed down from generation to generation? What is the issue? And if you look at the history, at least the one that resonates with you, what has been passed down from generation to generation that's still living through you? So those pains are complicated because they can come from a very far place. And to release them, it's not just simple as like I'm going to put pressure point or I'm going to do breath work and this and that. It's a personal journey to get familiar with it and to release it. Does that make sense? I'm looking at your girls' faces and I'm like,
It makes sense to me. And I think we've
okay.
had this conversation on this podcast before where like this isn't just I have pain, let's go treat the pain and done with it and back to life. Like this is a journey. It shows
Mm-hmm.
up for a reason and it's up to you to question and listen to, be open to receiving the answers, and it just becomes who you are at this point. It just becomes a lifestyle. And once you are aware and open to these things, that you are more than your physical body, that there's a mental and emotional, spiritual part of you as well, you can't unknow that anymore. And it becomes your lifestyle going forward.
Little log affirming the reality right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the kind of myofascial work that you do, because I know there's different kinds, and it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like, and you can confirm that what you learned was through an indigenous practice, maybe, right? You mentioned
The,
holding space.
well, holding space, I think, is just a general like when you're in a client with a client in a room, and it's never just, it's like my presence. It's learning how to be present in a way to serve another. And I think that has a huge impact and effect on the type of treatment that someone can receive. And I mean, I hear these, I have a lot of people in my family or friends that are social workers, and they do, I don't know, if they see 5 to 8, maybe 10 people a day. And usually social workers are also dealing with really heavy cases. And I'm like, I don't understand how you do this. I've had conversation with them. I don't understand that they don't even teach you how to self-regulate or how to take care of yourself. And holding space takes so much energy. Like yesterday I had a session, and it's an hour and a half session, but the impact that it has on me, like I can do maybe, I know that fascia therapy wise, I can do maximum 4 sessions in a day, and I cannot do that. I cannot sustain that for a whole week. Or if I do sustain that for a whole week, I need to take 4 or 5 days afterwards, right? So the concept of holding space is, I think, just finding someone that you resonate with, that you feel safe to release or to be open or intimate or vulnerable with. And so that creates, even though it's a patient client relationship, the amount of times I'm amazed how intimate these sessions go so fast. And I think that's part of holding space that sometimes is a little less known. But coming back to what I do fascia contouring, which is a technique that was invented by Philip Gough himself. He's a Canadian from Halifax. He started to train in RMT, after having his story. He broke both his knee on a hike. And afterwards, it took him 3 hours to do the hike to get up on top of the mountain and 24 hours to go down. And after that, it took him years to kind of resolve that issue, his knee pain. And he became a massage therapist, and that didn't help it. And then he fell upon fascia therapy and started creating his own technique. And fascia contouring or fascial shaping, those are the two names that we use for it, is a very, I would say, yang energy approach. So it's a very forceful approach to release tension. I'm forcefully creating space in your fascia, and then with what that moves, you have an experience, and then everyone can judge their own experience. But for me, for example, it created space. That's what I got out of it. It created space. It got me the space to have new perspective, to rebuild my physical body, but also to have perspective for my mental health, to have perspective upon my emotions and the work that I needed to do to learn how to get familiar with my emotions. This is for me really the beauty of things, is releasing or creating space through the medium of the body.
So I first wanted to try myofascial release when I met you. You actually suggested it for me. And I obviously wasn't able to go to you because we live in different locations. But I tried someone in my area, and it was so interesting that when she put her hands on me to help release the fascia, and correct me if I'm saying it wrong,
Fascia. Yeah.
but there was a complete release that I felt in my body. There was a moving of energy that would like flow down my legs. It would be bubbles. There was a complete physiological reaction that my body was having just by this woman putting her hands in certain areas, which to me was incredible.
Yeah, there's different
No,
ways
it's
of doing fascial
100%.
work. Are you using your hands? I just wanted to
I'm
confirm.
using my hands. There's mechanoreceptors in the body that are more receptive to hand touch. Then I know there's a lot of wooden tools, and I know there's a history behind these wooden tools, but the mechanoreceptors are more pliable, let's use that word, to human touch.
And are you using like a lighter touch or a deep touch?
It's very hard to explain. It's like it looks like pinching, but I'm actually gathering skin, right? And the idea is for the client. So I'm gathering skin. I'm gonna pull it in the opposite direction, which the client's gonna move, right? Because I want them to initiate the desire of change. So right, they're initiating the desire of change, and I'm pulling attention away, and that's what I do on their body from like I usually a session is going to be a quarter of the body. Usually starts with the core, hips, and glutes. It takes an hour. Yeah, lower back. So I stretch it on the long side of the fascia and then on the side, right? So it's really about expansion, creating space.
Yeah, that sounds very similar. I mean, obviously in physical therapy, we do fascial work as well, and
Yeah,
there's different kinds. That's why I'm asking what kind
yeah.
that you do, because there's ways of using tools, there's using cups, there's using the hand, there's light touch and deeper touch. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I'm wondering what brings people to you? Like what makes someone say, I'm gonna call Koa and make an appointment?
There's two things, especially now, it's people are being referred to me. Like, hey, there's this guy doing this, or someone has learned know what fascia work is, but usually it's people they come in, they don't know what to expect, and they just heard something about me, and they have a huge emotional release, and usually that flabbergasts them, and that's how it kind of keeps rolling. And then I have a 6 day program where I do half the body. I don't do 10 days anymore. I do 6 days because it's more gentle on me and on the client as well, where we do half the body every day with an intentional movement meditation practice where we're learning how to put that stress that we release from the fascia body back into the muscle. Usually the transformation that these people see in just 6 days, people are like, what happened to you? And just their skin glows, there's something changed, it gets stronger. Usually there's a huge shift in their life. Sometimes it's like a shift that brings a lot of beauty. Sometimes it's a shift that's the start of a darker chapter, but it's very needed.
I think I'm gonna hop on a plane right now down to South America and
It's so something like I've been working so hard on the breathwork side of my business for the last 2 years, and I'm so ready to figure something out to have people come retreats here because also like you're at the beach. There's a lot of beautiful different aspects. I use cacao a lot as a medicine personally. There's a lot of other different things also at disposition here. Temazcal, yeah, the ocean, just the vitamin D from the sun here. It's not cold in the winter. Things
We'll
like
make
that.
it happen. Don't worry. We'll get together, a little retreat. We'll do our thing. Breath work,
I'm
how
all up for it.
actually
I'm all up for it.
it will be great for the people and they will love it. So related to
Touchy
what brings
subject
people,
right
yeah,
now.
related to what brings people to you, are you working more with men, right? Because you have obviously you're more masculine energy. That's the body you were born in, the
Yeah.
spirit you inhabited. And do you find that you attract more feminine energy or more masculine energy? That's the first part. And then what do you notice about this masculine energy?
I would say that 90 to 95% of my clientels are women within breathwork or fascia therapy. This is something I've been asking myself a lot of the time. I have a lot of, let's say, women in their 30s and up, and they're in a relationship, and I'm wondering if part of why they come here is for that more emotional container that as a man that can provide. I'm seeing that reoccurring. I think it's also just the balance of women are a little bit more into emotional health, let's call it. And I think that's what I specialize in. I specialize in emotional release, nervous system regulation, and energy release. That's really what I specialize in. And when you tell that to a man, especially let's say if I look at the people around me from my my friends or people around me from their mid 20s till 40s or 50s, especially men, this is not it's not in their top five kind of important thing unless there's mental health issues. they're going to usually go in another direction than the woohoo nervous system regulation, emotional release. If I can just state myself and let's say my dad, and I know my dad wants to listen to this at one point, but like when we talk about emotion with my dad, and this is how I was before I started this journey, as soon as an emotion comes up, it gets blocked in the throat, and then it can't come out because I lose control, or I used to lose control. And it's the same for my dad. And I think it's very similar with a lot of men. Emotions, whoa, like it's a big red light. And then now also I can feel it where energy is trapped in someone's body. And as soon as there's an emotion come up, I would say 90% of people, the throat does a little squinting and closes down. And I'm right there right now. Like my all the work I've been doing with my support team has been to open up my throat lately. So I get it. I do get it. What was
You know,
your
it's
question about the masculine? We were talking about masculine, and I feel like I went a little bit away from it.
No, I think you did sort of touch on it. I was just curious if you did work more with the masculine and how they see or their viewpoints around this work. And I think you did touch on it because there is this fear of the typical, I'll call it the typical masculine to approach emotions, to talk about it, to even feel it and let it be expressed. So I'm not surprised that you mostly work with women, and also you mentioned like women having their own like struggling with their masculine men in their lives. Like I'm not surprised they would come to you because I mean, when Laura introduced me to you, I was like, wow, an example of a balanced masculine, because we all have masculine and feminine, and in just this current lifestyle that most people live in, you're either like too far masculine or too far feminine, and there's not a lot of balance, and you have to find the balance within yourself, but you also have to find it among like between people as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a struggle in our current society.
Well, personally, I've been kind of outside of the regular norm. I've always been that kind of odd sheep. And then for the past 6, 7 years, I've been in, especially with how the world kind of has been evolving, I've been putting myself in very special, I would say, environments, living, living on tiny communities, tiny islands with where the let's put it that way, like with a more of a hippie mindset. So even if I'm born and raised in Montreal, that kind of, I don't want to call it woke scene, but that more today agenda of the masses, I'm not aware of. I'm really not aware of. I live even here in Nicaragua. I used to live on Ometepe, which is a tiny island in the middle of the lake, and now I live in a little community on the beach. So it's still, I'm not in those big masses.
so it's so interesting though, because I just got back from Colorado a few weeks ago, and most of the people that the practitioners have treated with pain conditions were women. So there's many more women that experience fibromyalgia, pelvic pain, migraines, gastric issues than men. And I find it very interesting that women carry a lot more pain, and it's seems that women might have more, I don't know, a struggle with releasing these emotions, that they're just going with what life has to offer, and it's not easy to hold everything together. And that's the only thing I can put my finger on, why women are having more pain conditions than men.
I think, like, if you look at a very purely evolutionary standpoint, we would not be here if you guys couldn't hold that level of pain. And even till this day, it doesn't happen as much anymore, but I've had a few times where someone shared their story with me, and it took me, like, we're talking like weeks, of being able to accept not just that it happened to this woman that I treated, but that human predicament, right? That's a reality in our world. it's a lot of shadow work. And I think with what you're just saying, from personal experiences, I don't understand. I really don't understand how women are able to hold that much pain. Like I'm there, I'm let's say in a fascia therapy session, they're very intense, they're very painful. And I know what the pain is. I've been on the other side of the table, and sometimes when the emotions come up, because I'm very sensitive, I can feel the like I'm definitely crying during sessions because it just comes through me and I'm not trying to block it, it's just gonna come out. And sometimes I'm feeling so much discomfort, and yet I'm not even the one in the scenario. And I'm like, did I say it? I say it to them, like, I don't understand. I don't understand how you do, how you can. And they're on the table, just not even grimacing, just they're okay with pain. They're really okay with pain. And I could talk about this. This is something that's very interesting. It's also, you brought up the dynamic between men and women. But with women, especially with period cramps, which is so common and so young, where there is a toughness that comes from it, of I don't know how old people are when they get their period. It varies. They can be from 11 to like, I don't know, 14, 16. And you're telling me you're an 11 or 12-year-old girl and you've got your period and you've got period cramps, which we've all seen the videos on TikTok where they put this the cramp simulators. And like a guy would be in bed not doing anything. Yet women are like, you're gonna have to learn to shut up and just do the things that you're supposed to do and deal with it. Whereas men, I think when we feel pain, it's a different approach. Maybe we stay more quiet. I think this is also a reason why men have less of that outgoing, let's resolve this, they just suck it up. This is more of, I think, a different approach to it. Like, get tough, don't talk about it. Um, but I'm also seeing, I've had the chance in the last few years through one of my friends to do some men's work and to help hold space for breath work in men's container. And realizing that if there's not a serving aspect to an event, so if an event doesn't serve the family for men that have families, or serve an aspect of having a better chance in career or a better chance at meeting a partner, things like that. If there's not that purpose driven, okay, I'm going to do this type of inner work for this reason, I don't see a lot of men doing it.
I totally agree. I was having this recent conversation with someone as well in the retreat space, and we came to that conclusion that there has to be this like external purpose to get them to do inner work, because they're not going to openly, oh, you want me to release emotions? Heck yeah. I'm going to breathe and like release things or experience or get over things. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to do a mushroom journey so I can face myself. Let's do that. That's just not going to happen for most men. I feel like even men who've done the work, I'm going to say by accident, but it's not by accident, right? Like that was their path, that was their journey, but it wasn't the reason, it wasn't the emotional things or the woo-woo stuff that brought
Mhm.
them to that space. It was some external factor. I don't know whether it was, I can't get out of bed and go to work, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm so severely depressed. They're not
yeah,
going because I want to face my emotions. They're like, I need to make money. I need to
yeah.
go to work. I want to meet people. I want to meet women or whatever. Right? That's
Hmm.
what's gonna get them to do the thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a different way of working. Laura, you had mentioned too that, yeah, I noticed it too that women experience more pain. I think that men do experience quite a bit of pain. It's the type of pain may be different and the expression of it is totally different. I think for women,
Hmm.
partially because of the society that we're in, it's very masculine driven. There's a lot of suppression for women. So it comes up in the body, right? Like it's the self, right? Like it shows up as pain in their bodies. Whereas for men, the pain that they experience is different because they are in this masculine world. It's like maybe, and I can't speak for the masculine, but what I think it is because they live in this masculine world, but it's like this extreme masculine, that they struggle with the type of masculine that they are. right? The balanced masculine just doesn't feel safe to express because they're living in a toxic masculine world. And it may come off more as depression and anxiety in men, whereas in women, it comes off more as pain and these chronic conditions. I don't know. That's my theory.
I feel like you touched on very similar things like depressions. I think pain is pain. And whether it's mental or emotional or physical, pain is pain. And I'm realizing how the powerful, liberating tool it is. Like I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for, like I love. I found this little expression of a seed, right? A seed and a tree needs to grow 50%. Like it. There's a specific word which I don't remember. What grows towards the light and towards the darkness at the same time. But at the start of it all, the seed needs to grow its roots before it can have a little shoot up, right? And I think this is the beauty of, let's say, those first 20 something years of our life. We're in the dark a lot, and we get passed down these intergenerational wounds, even though like our parents are doing all the work, they're still gonna pass down. And I think if it was perfect, like there wouldn't be this type of incarnation. There wouldn't be in this body, right? We need that shit. We need that pain. And then it's a question of, are you here for just the journey, or are you here to do like this different type of approach to life? I think I'm very grateful for the pain that I had. For me, I remember clearly it was like the pain was I'm struggling with my mental health, was in depression. I was questioning suicide, and the pain was I'm ready to kill myself, but I would not be able to do this to my dad. I remember clearly. I was in El Salvador. I was so clear. And so when that was like, okay, this is a truth that like this is my truth where I'm at. I remember I was like in the bottom of a volcano in a lake in a hostel. And I remember like, okay, this is my truth. What do I need to do to write more masculine kind of thinking? This is my first problems. Okay, I have my answer for me, which is very concrete. And then, okay, what's my next step? Well, I'm in a hole right now. I've dug myself into this hole, whether I want to accept it or not. The choices that I've made for the last, I don't know how long, nor was I conscious or not, doesn't matter. I'm in a hole. I need to climb out of the hole and face every single thing that and reason why I'm in that hole. So that's kind of like that journey. But I think it's pain, right? It's that reality of pain that invokes and create changes. Philip Gough, from my one of my mentor, teacher, and really good friends, he always said, challenge equals change. Challenge equals change. So pain equals change. Pain equals change.
Pain is a great motivator to change, right? If it
Yeah.
wasn't for my pain, I wouldn't be here in this space right now doing what I do. So there are times that I am or have been very grateful for my pain because of that. So I'm just curious if there's any maybe last words or takeaways or any lessons you'd like to leave our audience with.
I think from my personal journey, it's and what I'm trying to share with my clients is always trust your intuition. Come back to yourself and like come back in yourself. Trust your intuition. And sometimes it sounds crazy. Well, maybe this is a big door to open, but I remember early 2022, I just had this call. My mom sent me a video. I watched it, and then there was another one where it's I don't know, for those who knows what the Pacific Crest Trail is. It's a pilgrimage that's from Mexico to Canada, I think through California, Oregon, and Washington. So my mom sends me a video of hiking, and then I click on the video of the Pacific Crest Trail, one that I've already watched. And within the first 30 seconds, I start bawling, crying. And then I just know, because this is something that's happened multiple times in my life, I must do it. It was something bigger than me calling me out to go do this thing. And you guys aren't miles, but imagine within 6 weeks I got ready, which most people take a year, 6 months to a year to prepare, because it's a 2,600-mile journey. 5 months hiking in the mountains of California, Oregon, and Washington. And it's like, I trusted my intuition. And there was the answer. I remember it was so clear in my head. It felt like someone else was speaking to me. The the answers to the questions you don't already have will be answered only when you finish it. And I remember it was like 8 miles from the final monument, and we had to run that day because we're surrounded by forest fire. And I fell to my knees, I felt it. I felt the answer. There's a difference between hearing and receiving the answer. I felt the answer, and I felt why I've been hiking for the last 5 months. And I remember the relieving sensation that all came through me. And so ever since, it's just like, trust your intuition. If it's not the right time to do this right now, don't do this. If it sounds absurd, probably is, but life is not about that rationale all the time. But life is about the experience, and they don't always make sense. That's my take on it.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I felt that, and I'm sure someone else will feel it as well.
Amazing.
Would you be able to share where people can find you? So if people want to
Yes.
you up on your
So
6-day thing.
the easiest is through Facebook, mainly Instagram. Actually, is Koa's Breath, KOAS Breath, without an E. And then if I translated my whole program, I call it breath therapy. So using the pillars of daily breathing, connecting to our nervous system, and then the power of going into these deeper sessions of holotropic or conscious connected breath work and creating consistency around it. I call that breath therapy. So I offer breath therapy experiences or coaching. And I've translated that whole program. It's a 6-week program, and then there's also introductory stuff in French, because I'm French Canadian. Has been something I've been really wanted to do for the past 2-3 years, and now I've completed it. Translated into French is also for people that are more comfortable with French. Koa respire, which means the same thing, Koa's breath, but in French, on social media, on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you so much. And I just want to add, I have had the honor and privilege of taking part in one of Koa's breathwork sessions. And I had one of the biggest releases probably that I've had during breathwork with him. And I do believe it's because of the space, the safe space that he held for me. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for me. I'm really grateful to be here today.
Thank you. I think so many people will be helped just by what you shared. So thank you for being here, and thank you for doing the work that you do, and thank you for being you.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
If you'd like to leave us a message or ask a question, please check the show notes with the link so you can reach us directly, or email us at beyondthepelvis@gmail.com.